Hey guys, welcome to my channel Hammonds Hobbies. My name's Glenn, and in today's video we're going to be having a discussion and having a look at just how hard is it to get a PSA 10 turbo attack from 2020. Let's get right into it. Before we get into today's video, I just want to say a huge thank you, as always, to everybody that smashes up the like button on these videos. It really does help the channel grow, so please continue to keep doing that if you're into the F1 collectible card hobby. And if you're new to this channel, consider clicking the subscribe button. We're going to do a competition once we hit 3,000 followers, so make sure you join me for that. And you can also follow me on my other social medias, which are Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all with the name Hammonds Hobbies. Or you can join the Facebook group, which is called F1 Sports Cards, which has over 4,500 members now. So if I can't answer your question regarding an F1 card, I'm sure one of the guys in the group will be able to help you out. We're trying to make one of the best and safest places to do buy-sell trades or just have open discussion regarding F1 cards on that platform. You can also shop for cards 24/7 on my personal website, which is hammondshobbies.com. There is actually a discount code in the description down below. You'll get 10% off your entire order when using the code Slipstream, and that's for just being a viewer of this video. If you want to take part in box breaks with me, I tend to do all my box breaking over on the Whatnot platform, and you can find me over on whatnot.com/hammondshobbies. If you use the link in the description down below, you'll get £10 of free credit just for taking part on the platform, which means you potentially might be able to take part in one of my box breaks or single sales completely free of charge. So make sure you use that link if you do sign up to Whatnot. Right, today we're going to be talking about how difficult is it to grade Turbo Attacks 2020, and in particular get that elusive PSA 10. So let's have a little look at an example of what I'm currently running at percentage wise with some more modern sets, and then we'll move on to what I'm getting with this submission today of Turbo Attacks 2020. Okay, so obviously with the more modern sets, you can't get much more modern than Sapphire 2023. I opened up a box of this to myself, and I did my usual of just opening it up, wearing gloves, and putting them straight into sleeves, straight into semi-rigids, and then I team bag them before submitting them to PSA, just so no dust or dirt particles get inside the actual semi-rigid. And that's really the best I can do. There's not much more I can do. I know many of you will comment saying, have you tried cleaning kits and waxing and polishing and modifying the cards? I haven't done any of that. I'm still getting my head around submitting cards for grading, let alone trying to modify cards. And from what I've heard, PSA are actually starting to clamp down on people that do that anyway. So I just thought, do you know what, rather than getting into bad habits, I'm just going to submit cards that I think look nice and have good centering and don't have any dinks on any corners. That's about it. I don't really do much else other than that. So I submitted a personal box of Sapphire 2023. I got this Lewis Hamilton portrait PSA 9. And I got this Bruno Famine in a purple out of 10. So this is one of the best hits of the box. I know it's not the best hit, but you know, we're worth to take what we're given. And I got a PSA 8 on that. Now the reason I'm showing you these two in particular is because they're the only two out of 22 submissions that was not a 10. So what I mean by that is I had 22 slabs, or 22 raw cards I should say, that I've submitted to be slabbed. All of these are all PSA 10. That means that I have a submission rate of, or a PSA 10 rate with my submission of around 92%. Because these work out less than 10%, 2 out of 22, so it's about 8% roughly. So that means 92% I got PSA 10. What are the odds? Now that is obviously that's a very good ratio, and I'm not suggesting that if you submit your Sapphires you're going to get 92% of them back as PSA 10s. but that's just what I got in this bundle, and I can only talk about what's happening to me now. So out of these sapphires, I got some portraits in here. We've even got Max Verstappen's image variation. We got Carlos Sainz out of 25, that came back a 10. Sergio Perez, Oscar Piastri. We got loads of Lewis, as you can imagine, me being a Lewis fan. All PSA 10s. So I'm not going to show you all of those. But that's an idea of what I got from Sapphire. Now that obviously is unusual. That is an unusual to get such good grades from a small selection like that. But if we look at, say, the chromes that I've submitted, you guys know that obviously I went quite hard with Chrome 2023. I actually submitted loads of these, hundreds, almost about 300 cards in total. I've sold through a lot of them and I've got about 70 or 80 left. And with those, I would say out of all of them, I've been keeping track of roughly what sort of percentage ratio I'm at, and it's about 70%. So out of, say, the couple of hundred that I've submitted, 70% of them have all come back PSA 10. Again, I'm not suggesting that that is what you will get guaranteed. That's just what I've been getting based on how I submit and how I look after my cards. So that gives you a bit of context about, okay, this is what Glenn's achieving now. Now, I done exactly the same thing with Turbo Attax. I knew Turbo Attax was a harder product to grade. I went out and I bought 2 sealed cases of Turbo Attax. If you've watched my content, you'll know that I bought these a little while back. I was meant to list them on my website, but I haven't got round to it. And I've been opening these boxes up. These are sealed boxes, and you can see that the packs are like mint inside. Okay, so I thought this is going to be the best odds of me submitting Turbo Attax and getting PSA 10s. So now you're all caught up. You know roughly what I'm getting. You know how I've submitted these ones. And now here are the results. So in total, I have 70 slabs here that I submitted to PSA. The same with the sapphires. So this was in with the sapphires. So that means they were graded by either the same person or persons that submitted the sapphires. So there isn't a discrepancy in what department they got sent to and stuff like that. They all went together and they all came back together. So take from it what you will. But in that, I have 70 cards here that were opened pack fresh from a sealed case, me wearing gloves, sleeved, semi-rigid, team bagged, and submitted straight to PSA. And the results are a lot more varied. So in this bundle, we got, here's some of the lowest ones. We got Daniel Ricciardo, the gold portraits. These seem to be the most popular images in the set. This came back a PSA 6. And I got 2 Lewis Hammonds here. One's a 5 and one's a 6. You can imagine that this is probably one of my favourite images. It's a holographic of Lewis Hamilton from the very first set that Topps ever made. So, you know, I've got to get a 10 in this at some point. So I don't know what's wrong with these. I assume they've got some sort of print line on them, or there's some sort of nick or dent in them. I don't know. I've had a look at them and I can't see anything, but there you go. That's what PSA have determined. So that's the first 3. Then I've got a handful here of about 5 or 6, and they all came back PSA 7. Quite a few of these are Max Verstappen, so I don't know if they just have maybe a bias against Max Verstappen. So there's a bunch of Turbo Attax, all PSA 7. Now I would say the majority of these cards, bearing in mind I opened these up pack fresh with gloves and submitted them straight to PSA from a sealed case, most of them have come back a PSA 8 or 8.5. When I say most of them, let me just show you this stack that I'm talking about. Quite a large stack of them all came back 8. So that seems to be where Turbo Attax 2020 are at, a PSA 8 or 8.5. If you can get your hands on anything above an 8 or an 8.5, so a 9 or a 10, That's above average. Now, you could just say, well, Glenn, that's just you. But if you actually look at the PSA pop reports, which is a database through the PSA website that shows you all the cards that have been submitted through them, there's about 350 turbo attacks that have been submitted for 2020. And only 75 of them have come back PSA 10. That means that it's about 20%. So if you submit 10 of this card, you're lucky if one of them /2 come back at 10. That's if you're lucky. You may just end up with a ton of 8s. Honourable mentions, obviously we've got the Charles Leclerc Silver, which is an exclusive for the tins, the little red tins that I have in the background of these videos. Obviously that Lewis Hamilton Gold portrait, obviously I wanted to get a 10 in that. I had quite a few of them. We've got Valtteri Bottas as well. And then obviously you can imagine I've submitted so many of these, it's ridiculous. So let's move over to the higher grade stuff. We have PSA 9s and we've got a few 10s as well. So we've got Max Verstappen in the bronze limited edition. Lewis Hamilton Gold. I would have loved to have this in a PSA 10. I really would. This came with the starter pack. A lot of them would be dink, dent, scratched because they were just loose in there. So I can imagine a lot of these are damaged. So I think I've done really well to get a 9 in that one. Max Verstappen Bronze Limited Edition. And then we got a bunch of holographics. I won't go through all of them, but there's quite a few there that we got 9. So we did pretty well for obviously how hard they are to grade. And then the main event, I actually got 6 that came back a 10. So out of 70... 6 came back a 10. So that means in the example of the sapphires that I showed you at the beginning of this video, it's the complete opposite way round. I'm running at a percentage of about 8% have come back a 10. The other 92% have come back 9 or lower. Whereas the sapphires, it was the other way. So they really are difficult to grade. So we got the Lewis Hamilton Hammer Time. I got 1 out of 10 that I submitted. Came back a 10. We got the Lewis Hamilton Gold Portrait in a 10. We got Charles Leclerc in a gold portrait. Charles Leclerc holographic, one of the action cards from Lewis Hamilton, and another speedster card. Very dark, moody shots with the black background. Bit like F1 Lights Out, really. There's no smiles in this set. They're all moody shots. They're all quite serious. But I quite like TurboTax. And for me, they're always going to be the first set that I ever collected of F1. So they're always going to hold a place in my heart, regardless of what people's opinions are of the set. To me, this is like Pokemon Set 1. So I'm going to continue to get them graded. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this set and how hard you find these cards to be graded. I'm sure some of you out there have had better experiences, some of you have had worse. I'd love to hear from all of you. Comment down below. I'm actually going to be going live over on Whatnot very shortly, and I'm going to be auctioning some of these cards off. I'm probably going to keep some of the 10s and the limited editions myself, but I'm going to see if anybody else would be interested. I'm going to take a massive L on these. These cost about $18 to get graded, each and every single one of them. So in total, there's like, I don't know, $1,200 here. I know I'm not going to get that back for them, but I tend to find that people on eBay are selling the 10s for like a few £100 each. So I can see why they're doing that. Because if you're only hitting a ratio of 8 to 10%, you need to make your money back on the 10s to break even from all of the other ones that you lose money on. So I sort of get it. Obviously, I'm new to this. I've never experienced this before, so I'm trying to find my way through the forest. But hopefully you guys join me on that journey. Make sure you comment down below any thoughts that you've got regarding everything I've just said. You can also reach out to me, like I say, on all those social medias and the Facebook group, and join me over on Whatnot if you want to take part in single sales and slab sales. That's it from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.